This is what it feels like. It's Sonic. It's pinball. It's new Sonic Spinball. It's faster. Sega Genesis and game cartridge sold separately.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another glorious episode and season of Nerd with Dre and Jeff. Now, of course, I am the second titular name in there. I am your co-host, Jeff May. Dre, you're the other one, right?
So, Jeff, I'm conflicted here because I can go two ways. I feel the need for speed. So I could be the Iceman to your Maverick, or flip side and more realistic, Jeff, I am definitely the Tails to your Sonic. So I'm Dre Alvarez, found most places as Nerd Numbers, also known as Tails the Nerd. And Jeff, you are the Sonic the Hedgehog. What are we talking about?
We are what? I'm the Sonic?
You're in the duo. I'm definitely Tails.
That's
You're
fair.
definitely Sonic. That's not a debate. If anybody debates that,
Okay.
they're wrong.
That's fair. I preferred Tails when I was playing anyway. We are starting a new season, and this season's theme is speed. That's exciting, right? You guys will understand.
Feel the need for speed, sir. You're going to laugh when you find out where it came from. I know we are introducing a new season of Nerd, as Jeff mentioned. Normally, I like peeking behind the curtain for returning guests. For new guests, that's a thing I like to do in the past. But this season, Jeff, I think I want to just organically go because the final episode is the Nexus. And I think people are going to laugh at what we come out with.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. But for this episode, a near and dear game to my heart, because we are doing a video game for the first one. You guys saw the title. We are covering Sonic Spinball from 1993 by STI. That's Sega Video Games.
You know what's funny is you're making that joke, and there's like, this is 90s, so there is that point. Weird case in point, doing some of the research, watching old Sega commercials, something I know is near and dear to your heart. There are just some wild ones where there's like one where there's a famous comedian that's dressed up as an old grandma denouncing Sonic, and then Sonic randomly gropes her boob through the television. It's a thing, Jeff. This is a wild era to be watching.
It's an insane era of advertising, and Sega was at the forefront of challenging and sort of, in a way, insulting the audience, which ended up becoming a very important part of advertising in the 90s. Is like, oh, you're going to use a Nintendo? What are you, a baby? And like, it worked. The Genesis was the official system of like teenagers. And then the Super Nintendo was for kids. Like, that was a very specific choice that was being made by Sega of America. And if you look at how they were advertising, how they were putting stuff out, what games they were putting at the forefront of everything here, clearly they were courting a more mature but still childish audience.
And so we're, of course, talking like the console wars era of video games. I would highly suggest the book Console Wars by Blake J. Harris. And I think that's also been turned into a television show as well. Like
a great documentary as well. Yep.
So between the two, I love this, Jeff, because between the two of us, you've seen the television show and I've read the book. So I absolutely love that.
I've also talked to Blake Harris.
Blake is in the old days, on the old social media site, he actually did follow me at one point, which was pretty cool. He isn't love that book, Console Wars, a fantastic read. All of the stuff Jeff was talking about is the innovative, cool stuff. We are talking about Sonic Spinball, which is, interestingly enough, a lot of the problems that came kind of about after that initial kind of surge, so to speak.
I think my thesis statement is that Sonic Spinball might be one of the most successful marvels of gaming because of the situation and scenario in which it was forced to exist. And that, to me, is unbelievable. This game is a miracle. And also because a lot of people, like, it is very easy to hate on Sonic Spinball without really dissecting what it is, which is one of the reasons I'm very glad we're doing this, Dre.
So, Jeff, you know me, I like doing callbacks to former episodes.
Let's do it, baby.
We did a great clip show with my brother, Daniel Alvarez, where we discussed old episodes.
Oh, yeah.
And you might be shocked about this, Jeff, because I edited that episode. End of that episode is Jeff and Daniel beat up Dre, which is completely acceptable. But we started off with me getting the win, so at least we carded it right. I am to stick up for my little brother, Daniel Alvarez, gonna just have to say, I will throw out the argument you are giving for Sonic Spinball is essentially the argument he gave for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Very similar, but what I can agree here is, as a game, Sonic Spinball is successful in what it was supposed to be, whereas Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 was a movie. You can't even argue for the type of movie it was, that it was like a well put together movie.
I don't fully agree with that, but I will accept that the arguments run parallel. The reason why is because, you know, I guess maybe that does make more sense. I'm not one to say like, oh, like I'm always right and I'm going to always debate my points. And so if I was going to say something along the lines of, oh yeah, well, you know, really that was, you know, what New Line, you know, trying to hurry up and chase financial. And I'm like, well, that's what Sega was doing. So I think
you're going to love this, Jeff, though, like, as we get, I'm going to cut you off. You're going to love this as we get going because I'm going to do that for you. But and that's what's going to make this fun to me. This is 100%.
Sonic Spinball is unequivocally a better product made in a shorter time than Ninja Turtles was for what that stood on.
Oh, 100%.
Okay? Now I understand there are great parts of Ninja Turtles 2 that I think, you know, I do think that the Henson folk, while I don't love the shift in design for the Ninja Turtles suits, I think they look great. I think they look fine. Okay. I think anytime you put Ernie Reyes Jr. in anything, I'm happy. One of the things you know about me, Dre, and I'm sorry about cutting myself off here, I like when risks are taken in commercial art. I genuinely like that. I like when somebody decides they want to break away from the status quo. They want to do something different. They want to get kind of crazy, and they're stuck in a capitalist goal, and yet the art can kind of flourish in a way. And that's what Sonic Spinball is. Sonic Spinball is a Sonic offshoot, right? So it's the first spin-off game. And yet it is a viewing of the canon in a darker way that, as you start dissecting the game, it is a disturbing game.
There are so many places to go now. Jeff, as a question, do you mind if I do a bit of top level just on basically what we were kind of talking, the development and how we got to where we were? And then I'm actually going to back up your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle point even further, because this game is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 on steroids, in the sense that both games were studio note games that were produced in a rush for a specific period of time. But if we look at the challenges Sonic had to go through, this one had to go through to get made, and then what was produced, that's why I think I can give the argument this is unequivocally better. So essentially, Sega, as we noted, came about, took on Nintendo, was doing, now you're, what is it? Now you're playing with power? Which one is it? That's
Welcome
Nintendo.
to the next level. Sega started as Sega does what Nintendo don't, and then they went to the Welcome to the Next Level campaign.
Love it. Okay, and you would know. So Sega comes about, competes with Nintendo with Sonic. They get Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Console Wars, check it out. Now, here's
by the way, two of the greatest selling games of the 90s, Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 literally are the reason that Sega was competing.
They are fantastic. I got Sonic 2. We're definitely going to talk our game histories and stuff. I got Sonic 2 as a Christmas gift, which was amazing. Side note, Jeff, I don't think I ever beat it. I think I need to go back and beat that. But all right. So we got Sonic 1, Sonic 2. They came back to back years. So Sega, they're riding this high. They got all this money. They're competing with Nintendo. We're coming for you. They want to get Sonic 3, all sorts of fun stuff. Sonic 3 is not going to be ready in time for Christmas. What can they do? They go, can we release a spin-off game? They settle on Sonic Pinball, Sonic Spinball. But here's the things, Jeff. They don't have the developers in Japan because the Japanese developers are working on Sonic 3. So they go to the US.
Yes. And there's also conflict rooted in here. This game exists because the Japanese and American developers couldn't get along. Sonic 2 is an amalgamation of the work of Japan and America. And apparently the Japanese developers, and this has been kind of bandied about, and you don't know what, were like assholes. And they didn't want to work with the Americans, and the Americans didn't want to work with them, which is why Sonic 3 took longer to be developed.
And we didn't even just get to develop. It was across the board, like cultural things, like the decisions for Tails. There were back and forths on the name, on the design, on the thing, on these two sides kind of having to placate each other. And, very cultural differences, I think, is a huge thing where you have these two parties that just cannot see to eye to eye. They are literally speaking different languages, and it ends up with them just being frustrated and angry with each other. As you're mentioning, that makes Sonic 3 is going to take longer, which is just the virtue of video games too, right? You have to keep upgrading. The technology and stuff is getting better. So Sonic 3 is not going to be ready in time. They're like, we have done a Sonic every year.
Well, and the reality is in time for Christmas.
In time for Christmas.
It's not just we have an annual. It's not just that we have an annual Sonic. It's that we have an annual Sonic that drops in late November or early December.
And of course, that is when are families going to be making large ticket items on systems and video games? Christmas. If you can have the item they want to buy at Christmas, which interestingly enough, I would say Sega did with Aladdin, but if you can have that game they want to buy at Christmas, you're going to win. So Sega, it's not a bad thing to want that, right? That's, I think, the thing you're defending, right? Is this is a capitalist mindset that is driving this game that we can say as an artist, oh, this is hitting it, but it's like very logical to be like, hey, if you make this game and it drops November, I think this dropped like November 19th, somewhere in that, it's going to make a boatload. It did sell over 1 million copies. If you drop it January 2nd, cut that figure in half.
The problem, however, on that is if you make a good game that gets released, you become the hero of the holiday. If you create, I don't know, E.T. for the Atari, you can destroy the entire. Yeah. And that's the problem is if you have to maintain, so like the art part of this is actually as important as the sales part, right? And I know that that's like a very easy thing to say because it's a very lofty thing, like, oh, how obviously the art's the important thing. Yeah, but if people aren't buying your art, then your art doesn't get seen or played, right? So like by having something dropped by the holidays, if it's bad, you're done. You're screwed. This has happened for video game companies a lot. They release an unfinished or bad game, or like in movies it happens too. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is historically an unfinished movie that was released. It's just one of those things where Sonic Spinball, the difference between Sonic Spinball and Atari, because Sonic Spinball could have been E.T. It could have been E.T. if it was a bad game. It's not a bad game. People give it a hard time because it's different. The designs are different. It definitely takes influence from the animated series. Literally, the animated series has characters, that only appear in this game as cameos. The only appearance those characters have in any Sonic video game is Sonic Spinball.
Yeah, there is. Okay, so there is a ton to go, and we'll keep going. But basically, so we're noting some of the hardships already. So they've got a 9-month development cycle, which is already absurd, right? Sonic 3,
it's insane.
Sonic
and it's
3,
not. By the way, and I know you want to get through this, but it's important to note: if you had 9 months to develop Sonic 2, you have Sonic 1 to build off of.
Yes. This is so key, Jeff.
This is so incredibly important. Why did Batman 66 get taken off the air and never make new seasons, even though it was the most popular show on TV?
That is so tragic, the story you're about to share.
They destroyed all the props and sets, and they couldn't afford to build new ones, right? Because you have to go from the ground up again. Sonic Spinball is a game that not just was released within that 9-month window, it was released with no skeleton. It was a ground-up game. Sonic 2 is not a ground-up game. Sonic 3 is not a ground-up game. Sonic and Knuckles is famously not a ground-up game.
That inadvertently worked in their favor, for those who don't remember, is that as we progressed in the Sega era, they would have these, you could stack cartridges and cartridges, and it was fun because you could replay old games with new stuff. But it's because of what you're saying, the same engines. Throwing back to the show one we've done before, Jeff, we did Mega Man 2. Mega Man released 6 games on the Nintendo, which is unheard of, but the way they were able to do it is they had the same underlying game engine.
And have never changed his appearance in any of the Mega Man games for NES.
Yeah, it was just change of color, change of props.
Yeah. The first time we ever got a different one was Mega Man X. And even he was a different guy.
Yeah, it was supposed to be, you jump in the future. That back lore is fun. But yeah, so that is the key point. Jeff, I'm loving that you brought this up, which is Sonic Spinball is not just a spin-off, literally Sonic game. It is a ground-up one, which is why some of the controls don't work as well, why some of the look and feel doesn't look as well. And when we're talking the cultural battle between Japanese and US developers in terms of this, that got so huge and so fascinating.
It's funny because it's different. I don't necessarily want to go out of my way to say it's worse, sort of the thing, like a lot of the things, like the controls, there's a jump, with Sonic, he jumps immediately, right, off of things. But when you're platforming in this game, which this game has about 8 to 10% of this game, maybe a little less, is platforming. I'd say less, yeah. And when he jumps, he does a little animation before he jumps. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, like, it's not bad controls. It's just different controls. And I don't hate that. Now, there are things that people don't realize, like it's actually at a certain speed that you can change in the options menu to make it play faster.
Yep, there's a fast speed. Yep, that's true.
Which is, incredibly important, right? Like if you do it on the fast speed, you get to play the Sonic-fied version of that, and that disappears. But the changes, like the sound effects that they have on there, like you can't tell me that the sound effect of the like ball roll attack that he does isn't better here than it was in Sonic 2. That like chunky, like as he takes off, it's a better sound effect than the Sonic 2.
Yeah, what the note I had for that, to briefly stray there when we're talking it, is I didn't find, for instance, much of the game itself bad in that regards. I found some of the synergies of those parts, right? The soundtrack itself isn't bad, and it's not bad when we give into account the fact that, same point, ground up, right? Someone had to come in. Another huge part of this, other huge part of the 80s and 90s, Jeff, which is wild, which is ownership of music rights. So the Sonic theme,
they had to pull the game before it was released.
Yeah, that happened because, for those that don't know, just giving you a point, the Sonic the Hedgehog 1-2 games, the composer is Masato Nakamura, who was like a pop star in Japan at the time. My annoyed note, Jeff, is like, in reading up on his history, I was like, and at age 50, he married a 20-year-old. And I'm like, oh man, pop stars with problems with younger people. I hope that doesn't show up also in Sonic. And we may talk about Michael
you know
Jackson.
What? Not illegal.
Not technically.
Not illegal.
But that being said.
So for you guys, probably you're familiar with which is like your standard Sonic 1 and 2. Sega has never used those sounds again because they don't own them. So they didn't realize the rights issue when they were putting it together, because they did a modified version of that to introduce Sonic Spinball. They had to pull it, and they had, and this is insane, I forget who the composer is, 2 hours.
Howard Drazen is the person who came in. And then also this pulls together where, I hope I'm saying your name right, but Howard got pulled in to do Sonic, notoriously 2 hours to make a new intro theme after being told you can't use it. Absolute hero. And he gets paid off in a messed up way, which is Michael Jackson was supposed to do songs for Sonic 3. There is a bunch of content. It lines up with his trial, but it also lines up with other things.
That's his era of wanting to get involved in the things he loves. It's why he always wants to be Spider-Man, why he did an episode of The Simpsons, why he wanted to do the music for Sonic. He was just like, hey, I'm Michael Jackson. Maybe I should do the thing. Why he wanted to be Jar Jar.
God, that is just, I forgot that story. And, this is coming off him doing like the Super Bowl halftime show, just all of this stuff. Michael Jackson at his peak. There are lots of great YouTube videos if you want to check this out, where, Michael Jackson saying my songs don't work well. There's the legal issues that were happening at the time. But essentially, he does not wind up doing Sonic 3 officially, and Howard is able to come in. So like, that's a feel-good story about this, right? Is like, you're randomly pulled in to be composer of Sonic Spinball, and then you get called up to the majors when Michael Jackson gets benched on Sonic 3. So like, that's a nice side effect. And you're right. He is rewarded for being a goddamn hero, because this is 90s proprietary stuff. If you watch modern studios, if you watch, Disney, Marvel, and they're just litigious, we want to own everything, we're not giving creators rights for anything. I hate that and despise that we've gotten there, but eras like these are what they came from, which is going, oh crap, we don't own the rights to this song, and that person won't give it to us for an affordable rate because they know this is the biggest game coming out, right? Like if this game is coming out at Christmas, it is going to be sold to millions of people. I'm talking more like Sonic 3, but to that point, they're like, how much is it worth? And so that's where we wind up with a modern era of them being like, nope, we're going to own it. We're not going to pay anybody for it. But that hit this game.
Yeah. And so like, that's why the Sonic Spinball opening song is very short, but it's very simplistic. It gets the energy of the game while still not violating international copyright laws. The music to this game is, the sound in general is jarring in a good and atmospheric way.
You and I are so different on this, but I do love it.
It's like, it's tinny and grimy and grungy, and that is literally like Sonic the Hedgehog, the games. They are bright, they're relatively clean, right? They're like really almost like cartoon aesthetic, right? Like bright Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic. This game is so dark, creepy, and chilling. And the music matches that. It's not really upbeat, you know, like the first one when you're playing literally in what is essentially a sewer, you know, and you have that burp, burp, burp. It's almost a little Axel F-y, you know, like, you know, the song Axel F, but without the but like that kind of undercutting. And it's like, it's this kind of like jazzy, a tinny jazzy kind of beat that also has a grime on it. And the sound effects are a little bit grimier. And they're a little bit chunkier.
But it also, that aligns with the game aesthetic, as you're pointing out. That's the key, is like, on the one hand, you're like, this isn't the Sonic I'm used to, but it's like, yeah, but does the game change? And I think when we're
talking levels are gross. They're gross. But that's, like, if you look at it, it's like the villains are the scariest villains in Sonic history. The most disturbing. The Scorpionus or whatever, Scorpion.
And the sound on that is, you must have loved that sound. You're insane, but right? They're just like,
okay, so for those of you that don't know, and maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, I'm not 100% sure. Dre is the map. He's the navigator here. But the first villain is a Robotnik. Robotnik put basically his face on a giant robot scorpion. And you need to attack the scorpion. And because the scorpion cannot defend itself while you are attacking it, it screeches in pain robotically while having the most terrifying face and body ever. This is the first villain of this game. This is like, if you Google anything about this game, one of the like the adjectives that are going to come out are things like creepy, disturbing, upsetting, and it's 100% based on the entire aesthetic of this fucking game. It's so gross. Like it breaks away from Sonic as a platformer and gives you like a real filthy dark side. It's sort of in a way like Rogue One in Star Wars or Andor, where you get to see that like it's a lot grimier than you realize. And like there's a lot of filth and dirty hands and shit.
I don't even know how much of the Sonic lore around this time we're getting into, because that's also another can of worms and a video I want. Somebody out there, if you have a why were there two Sonic television shows, compare and contrast, please make that video for me. I want it. I couldn't find it easily. And
because there was a good one and a bad one, right?
There was two.
Like, one that's like the Adventures one is bad. There's because I know that like, because when I was doing my research for this, somebody brought up the cartoons and said and referred to one of the cartoons as being like the bad one, like the one that isn't really
and I think
respected.
this is, so one of them is like, just to your pointing out, a more dystopian future where Sonic is like a rebel against Robotnik. And I think that's set in the same universe where this is an infiltration-ish mission where Sonic and Tails are basically flying at a base and they get shot out of the air. They don't really explain it. In the instruction manual, they're just like, Sonic's got friends in watery places, and you start the game coming up through the sewer, as you're noting.
Yeah.
And it's an infiltration of this layer of Robotnik on like the
it's taking out a Death Star. Yeah. It's a Death Star scenario, because when you look at it too, the third. So let's talk about the main villains, because we can talk about how like first you have like Scorpionus or whatever.
Let me try this. Let me at least wrap off I think we're almost at development and just like place in history. But yeah, basically
that screaming of the scorpion is so upsetting.
Yeah, we're gonna talk that.
Actually, as a matter of fact, Dre, why don't you add that sound into the show so people can hear it, because of it screaming while it's getting hit, so people can understand.
Dre here from the future. I am going to insert the scorpion noises Jeff wanted. I'm going to play it at half volume because they are that jarring and a real insight into Jeff's character. Thanks.
Jeff promised me arguments before the show. We're not having too many of them yet, but maybe when we do, Jeff, maybe I'll edit out your voice with just the screaming. But yeah, I will. I'll put in.
I cannot stress how fucking upsetting and disturbing that is in a game built for children. I love it. I love it so much because that's what I love. Is like the RoboCop thing where it's like, well, we're putting this out there, and if kids watch it, whatever. But we're putting it out there, and that's kind of like. It's so dark. This game is probably the creepiest and darkest Sonic game ever.
There was something about when we put this together that this felt like a Jeff May like nexus of so many of advertising.
Well, I know, because like I played pinball.
I did want to do a pinball episode at some point, so this was a nice sideways way into that. And I guess the only real things to finish on is, right, they get this done in time. It is not a failure. Like, this does fine. There is an article that noted that basically 1993 was the peak of like the second wave of video games. And it did crash very much like the 80s. And there are two arguments. You could argue it crashed more because of the billions it lost. I would argue the 80s crash was bigger because like the 80s went from like 2 billion to 100 million. And if you look at that percentile wise, you're like, holy cow. Whereas the 90s,
the universe thing, yeah,
90s went from like 6 billion to like 2.5 billion. So it like cut in half, but that almost explains itself where you just had so many.
Then it regrows.
Yeah.
So, and one of the big problems with that, by the way, Dre, is that, and this is Sega's fault. Sega actually shot themselves in the foot by spending all of their time and money on making peripherals for the Sega Genesis or if you want to call it the Mega Drive. Over in Europe, they're making Sega CD, which is fine, but you need a Sega Genesis to work a Sega CD. Then they make a Sega 32X, which is in addition to that. And so there's all these different peripherals that they're going where Nintendo is like, well, now we're making a new system. And so like Sega's so busy trying to build up the periphery for the Genesis, they're not realizing that another generation is already starting. And then they have to hurry up Saturn out. And the Saturn was an incredible, but the Saturn is literally an arcade mod. It's like the processor on the Saturn is almost double what the PlayStation is, but they just didn't do it right. And they shot themselves in the foot.
And I mean, it is just worth noting that the fracturing of building new systems, again, I cannot stress Console Wars is a great read. All of that stuff happening, but, we're kind of looking, to just, like I said, kind of finish up how Sonic Spinball got developed in its place in history. It's like at this nexus of Sega just being huge, the video game thing being huge. This team is given a mission like, give us a stopgap Sonic until Sonic 3. And they did it, and it succeeded. And I think we're going to have a lot to talk about what is emblematic of this game, like the problems this game showed, some of the stuff we've already discussed. But I think you and I actually are on the same page. So, Jeff, let's get to the crux of why I brought you on this sode. You are, as we know, an expert.
Because I'm your co-host. That's what the crux is.
Wait, what? You are?
Oh, shit.
Are you sure?
Do I not know what show this is?
This wasn't the Pina Colada thing?
Babylon 5 right now? Where's Mike Slater?
I thought it was like, I was like, Jeff, I need you as a co-host on for not Jeff on this one on things. Okay.
For my exclusive Sonic Spinball show that I'm...
Okay, Jeff, let's get to why I was really excited to have this as a topic. Like when this started coming up and we were banning it about, I was like, this is perfect. And the reason is you are a phenomenal pinball player. And I know we can get into weird arguments about levels of it, but let's just
I'm a good pinball player. I'm a good pinball player.
You and I are in the same boat, like chess for me and pinball for you, or we are good enough to basically wax a majority of the population, but good enough that when we compete against others, we recognize our place. And so like for chess,
Corey Casella is a phenomenal pinball player. Like Ian Jacoby from Nudgement, like they're phenomenal players. I'm good.
Yes, but that's the problem is like, you've gotten to the state of pinball where you are in that tier where you're able to recognize, and that is such a rough thing of reality, right? It's like as you get better and better, you are able to recognize the exponential difference between the next tier. So you still are. I'm going to stand by like you are a phenomenal pinball player, but because you are that good, you are able to recognize all of the people in the same sphere as you and recognize the distance between you and them. But I have loved playing pinball with you. That's something that's gotten to happen a couple times this last year.
Yeah, you played with several cool friends. You played with Corey Casella, and you've also played with Dan Backadall.
Yeah, I'm both. Like, it was fun because I think Corey was a prequel, right? I got to talk to her before the episode, and that was great. And Dan was a postquel. What do you call those? Not sequel. That sounds ridiculous. I'm going to stick with postquel. Final answer.
If you said prequel, you have to, for consistency, you'd have to say sequel.
Oh, thanks for pre and
so you
post.
Could say a preview.
Wouldn't it be prequel, postquel? Because you got pre and post. This is the right spot to stage up.
No, that's a weird semantic thing to get into. It's a prequel if it happens before. It's a sequel if it happens after.
I'm clearly,
you want to go back
I clearly
in time
didn't
and say,
misspeak
and say,
just trying to fix it, but we got to stay here. We got to stay in this.
Say, I had a preview
and a post view.
Corey Casella, and then you can say I had a post view or like a follow up.
No, I think it's a preview C view. We're just going to stay over the rest of the show.
I think C view is in the moment. So that's the present.
Let us know in the comments. With that being said, Jeff, I got to basically talk to Corey before the episode. I got to talk to Dan after his episode. Not shocking. There is tons of space for more of that. Go to the back catalog. Jeff has cool friends.
Phenomenal players and even better human beings. For those of you that are listening, I know actually real quick, a lot of you listen to this show that don't listen to Jeff Has Cool Friends, which is totally understandable. I understand. You don't have enough time for everything. Corey Casella is a phenomenal swimwear designer and fashion designer who also runs the LA Pinball League over at 82 downtown, is an incredible performer, really in the pinball universe, right? Like, she does very, very well. Dan Backadall, if you don't know, is an actor, most known, I'm guessing, for Veep. That was probably his most high profile thing, but he was on The Daily Show and he's been on everything.
One of the best side plots of Community is fantastic in that. Recently, Instagram showed me a clip from like one of the Hitman movies that he's in, which is just like, I actually meant to send it along. I was like, it's the dude. It's the dude.
Or where he plays the albino cop or FBI agent in The Heat.
That's so, oh man. So
yeah, he's just he's a brilliant comedy actor, just like absolutely brilliant. So that's who two people we're talking about they're both were in my league. I think Dan has since relocated to Canada, which means he's not going to be able to make it to my pinball league anymore. But just like two great, cool friends that have incredibly interesting jobs, and they also happen to be great at pinball.
And I think I got to see him make like the high score chart, when I was playing, which like that was really cool to see. But also on one of the tables we were playing on, he basically gave me some advice, which was like, don't hit the ball there. It's going to come back at you so fast. And I would love to say that the contentious ADHD me was like, I'll show him. I listened, but I'm that bad at pinball that I did it on accident. And it just like smacked, like I hit it to where he said, it came right back at me too fast for humans to react. That would have had to have been Barry Bonds. And I was like, you were right. Shocker. You knew what you were talking about. Dan knows.
Shocker, the person who's played this table 150 times knows what happens.
And got a high score that day. So anyway, I've played pinball, have absolutely loved talking at it. And it was like, wanted a nice outlet for a nerd show to kind of talk pinball. And it's kind of rough because you're the pinball expert. I'm not. I've got some interest, but then there's only so much interest on like mainstream boards that everybody knows.
There's also great pinball podcasts that have people that are kind of experts on this that are talking about that. So when you dip your toes into an area of someone's expertise, it also is like every time we do one of these episodes where it's going to be an area of someone's expertise, you're just like, all right, I hope I don't fuck this up and they hear it.
Well, that is to dip behind the curtain, which I do like doing on the Nerd Show. I do want any episode to have a personal element. So even if we do something mainstream, it's Ewoks, The Battle for Endor was a huge part of my childhood. The He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special, as an example, was like a DVD I've had forever. Star Wars CCG, Jeff is like a champion caliber ranked player in that. We both had it as kids. So like, we do like that. So when it was going, I want to talk pinball, but there has to be a level of personality to the pinball we picked. Sonic was awesome for it. So the top level question I have to you, Jeff, is as a pinball player and a gaming aficionado, how does like this game rank? Like, how does it stack up if you were grading it as like a pinball deck, which I know is a weird question to ask.
No, it's not. They're not in the same It would be like saying, like, how does playing RBI baseball compare to playing baseball? They're not the same thing, and you can't really, they're so drastically different, because the thing about Sonic Spinball is a platforming pinball game where you can actually influence and control the ball by using your directional, right? Like the pinball. Sonic is not, because it's very important. Hold on real quick. Sonic is not a pinball that the flippers and all the toys and targets and stuff decide where he goes. There are parts of that. It does have a trajectory, but you get to then influence that trajectory by shifting the weight of your character by controlling with the direction.
You could kind of think of it like gravity. But what was interesting to me when I played pinball with you and you were talking about it is a thing that expert pinball players are aware of is, the shaking the thing, the nudging the table, and then of course the tilt thing, right? Depending on the sensitivity of certain tables, if you nudge it too much, you basically get warned, like a foul in bowling. Hey, you're not allowed to do that. But that was part of the funny thing, because I would go, hey, there are times when the ball's coming right at this spot and there's no way the flippers can hit it. I was like, what do you do? And you and Dan basically probably 101 stuff that any pinballer on like a real pinball podcast. And I was like,
well, you learn, because it's actually not, it doesn't feel natural to slap a pinball table.
Yeah, because basically it is similar to bowling, where it's like this ball, there's not a lot of friction between this metal ball and the table. So if you nudge the table a little, that can start wobbling the ball, which changes its trajectory. Which
you literally reposition the ball enough so that your flipper. So like a lot of times you'll do like a slap flip save, which is like a ball's coming down the middle. You slap with like your left hand, for example, while you're hitting that left flipper, and it juts it just enough so that your flipper can then save it and send it back up and keep your ball in play. But if you do it too hard, too many times, you get a tilt. And a tilt then sort of wipes out any of your progress. And in a lot of games, especially older games, you lose your bonuses, which is like, especially in older games, that's how you win.
And then also another fun aspect of that same thing that you were bringing up is just advice for, burgeoning pinball players that are just starting. As you were saying, like the paddle thing, this is actually interesting in the Sonic game. You don't ever want them both going at the same time. That's the instinct of most people, myself included, is you hit them both at the same time. And you're basically saying you want to have them like interspersed. And that was interesting, is that the Sonic, one of the buttons hits them both and one just hits the left.
Yeah. A hits left, B hits right, C hits both. I think when I was playing Sonic Spinball, when I was a teenager or kid, really, I was, it was late 93, I was 12, would be that I would just hit C all the time, because it's not classic pinball anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
And it's worth noting, in a standard pinball game, there's the drain, right? The ball, you miss the ball.
Center drain, yeah.
Yeah, it's center drain, and there is also the side drain in this. But in this Sonic, if the ball comes straight down, there is usually something underneath that Sonic is able to land on and jump off of. In fact, there's a secret
first
at
two levels.
So just the first two, but so there is something there. So it's probably at least
maybe just the first one level.
I thought the second did too, but I could
you
be
get
mistaken.
the sea monster, and then you have the toxic waste barrel. But I think in the heat levels, like once you get to the steam heat volcano level and then the machine, I don't think you get that. I think they're giving you that level one gives you like hey, things are going to get pretty scary if you fall down here later. We'll save you now once.
So I guess that doesn't, and I mean, some pinball games do have that too. You die soon enough, it pops you back up. So,
oh yeah, there's ball saves. You can also have like Dungeons and Dragons, the new one. You can get a shield that has a little thing that will give you like a little save, or there are ways of preventing that from happening. Sonic Spinball the first level has a couple of those, and then
yeah, I would say so. Like
it's a hard game. It's a 4-level game, but the levels are huge. The game is complicated and it's unforgiving, and that makes it a great game, in my opinion. And there's a reason they still release it all the time. Like, you're getting a Sega mini console, it's in there. If you're getting a Sega's Greatest Hits, it's in there.
It's on, it's on the Switch, on the Sega one, it's there, yep.
It's pretty well reviewed in general. Like, when it was released, it didn't get bad reviews. It's just different. And when things are different, especially in a fan base that people are really into, they reject.
But I think, to your point, I think that is probably what I would argue there are two things that I don't want to say but really help the game in that regard. The first is this was a stopgap between Sonic 3. It's not you're getting this instead of Sonic 3. It's you're getting this and Sonic 3. Also, and I showed this on the cover, on like the cover art for this game that I included in our script, Jeff. On the back of this game, they advertise Aladdin. And my mean joke is I was just like, you get this for Christmas, and the box is like, here's the game you wanted. They were out. You get Sonic Pinball. Sonic's good, right? But essentially, Sega did.
To be fair, Aladdin's considered in like the top 5.
Yes, it was like, it was, but I guess here's what I'm saying is that it's basically going, if you had a Sega and you were like, I really wanted an awesome platformer, well, guess what? Same period of time, Aladdin came out. If you were like, this isn't the Sonic I know, it's like, hey, guess what? That one's right around the corner. So I think that's why, and as we're both kind of saying, this did it good enough. And it's interesting, like I said, I guess the answer you had to the pinball question is it's like, kinda. And I guess that was gameplay. I think it added a little bit of the nudge
bonus
factor.
levels are like pinball, by the way.
So the bonus levels
There are bonus levels where you actually play pinball.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we want to briefly, because you already explained most. There are 4 levels. You're infiltrating a Dr. I almost said Wily. Dr. Robotnik castle.
Robotnik, or Eggman, if you want to get Japanese about it.
Yeah, if you're going Japanese, Eggman. Each level, you're kind of going up, and you find, you do have to find the Chaos Emeralds to unlock things, but the numbers don't line up, but it's fine.
All 16 blue Chaos Emeralds. That's the one thing that people really... Like, that seems to be the thing people really have. The nerds really don't like that there are 16 blue Chaos Emeralds.
I hate that I learned enough of the lore, Jeff, just in backstory as I was doing research to justify this, to basically go. The normal Sonic things, right, is these Chaos Emeralds are Dr. Robotnik's after them. He wants to get them all. Sonic has to get them all. When Sonic gets them all, he turns blue, he turns gold or silver or whatever, depending on the variant.
The golden god Sonic,
Yeah, that barely lasts. In a later variant, Dr. Robotnik goes after a floating island powered by like a single crystal, and that's like the Knuckles storyline. And what I'll throw out is, if we're just sticking with the philosophy in the Sonic universe of there are random gems that have a lot of power that can power islands, which we see in Sonic 3, then the premise of the story is there are 16 in this universe things that we justify, like let's stay Star Wars, Jeff. Let's do that, right? The little, what are they called? The crystals that power the lightsabers that have to go in the middle?
Kyber crystals.
Kyber crystals. It's just like that. Like, this is just a technology in that universe. Sonic has found a Dr. Robotnik place. It is powered by 16 of these things. We have been given information that in this universe, there are crystals that can power islands. This one just happens to be powered by 16 of them. Sonic's goal is to knock out 16 of these, like, you knock out 3, you take the first boss. You knock out 5, you take the next, whatever, however it works, right? And I was curious how that does kind of line up with pinball games, because as you've explained to me, that is kind of how some pinballs work, right? Like, you hit enough of the things to unlock the thing, and then you hit the ball here.
Yeah, goals. A lot of people think pinball is just like, you slam until you can't have any more. But there are goals and objectives in pinball and orders and modes and things like that. Like, you're playing the Guardians of the Galaxy game, and it's like, you play as Yondu first with the Yaka arrow, and then you play this, and then you go and pick what's his name there, Star-Lord with the multi that starts out, and then you play Drax, and then you do that, and you complete those modes, so then you can get to Wizard mode, which is like, and obviously the game is based entirely on points, but like, you get the most points when you hit higher modes and higher levels and complete your goals.
Yeah, because usually on even historical pinball machines, it's you want to hit these things. In some cases, they're movable. So, like things that stand up and you want to knock them all over. That's very common dynamics. There are bumpers that are, stationary and you bounce off of and you get points for bouncing off of, but there are things you want to knock over. There are parts of classic, if you've never, it's weird to like be describing pinball if no one's ever played it. It has to say, if you've never played pinball, it has to sound insane.
Describing pinball to somebody who's never played it is insane.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, okay, so you hit this metal ball from a plunger and then it bounces off a lot of things. But while it's bouncing off, there's like a screen in front of you that's giving you information. If it's newer, it'll be like an LCD. If it's older, it'll be like, like,
well, there were like dot matrix.
Yes, dot matrix is the word I was looking for.
Matrix system, and before that, it was just like rotary.
Yo,
or literally just rotary spun.
Yeah, so I was going to say is you do that, but you knock over parts of the thing, and that causes other things to open up. It's very mechanical. Almost think Mousetrap might be the board game I would think of, right? Certain things unlock other things. The more things you do, the more points you get. If the ball falls down, like you're hitting things up with these little paddles. If it comes down, you basically have to start over, and you typically get 3 lives.
You have to not start over. You have to continue.
Well, yeah, but
You might lose the mode, but you're not starting
interesting.
over.
Oh yeah, interesting. To your point,
you're continuing your progress.
if we were thinking of this in video game terms, it's basically, you're going to be reset to a checkpoint. If it, depending on like the Mega Man game you're playing,
Exactly.
it might send you all the way back to the beginning, like Mega Man 3
brings you to your
does.
save point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever your save point is, that's where you go to. Yeah.
And it's actually, what I'll throw to you is, as a mechanical device that's been around forever, these are fascinating to watch, as a gamer. As someone that was raised in the 80s, I was a Atari first, Nintendo era kid. To know that kind of thinking for video games has been around forever and was around in a mechanical age, right? The progression, the save points, the stuff we're saying, and like, I'd be curious, this is a good fun historian question. We don't have to delve too deep, like oldest historical game that you can think of that is like complex that you've played pinball wise.
I mean, I don't know. I've played some of the very, 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 very old ones, like back when they were pins. Like I've played some of those because I've traveled to spaces that have like the very vintage ones. But remember back in the day too, pinball was considered to be a tool of gambling, a game of chance. And it wasn't, there's a great book / movie that I believe the movie was called like The Man Who Saved Pinball, about how, because it was illegal in New York for decades. And it wasn't until they proved that it was actually a game of skill, not a game of chance, that it got removed. And he literally, like in front of like the New York City Congress or whatever, showed them that was the case.
Those are always funny because I know like poker and daily fantasy sports actually hit similar lawsuit arguments. And it is funny where you kind of have to argue, clearly pinball is a game of chance. That's you can just have a bad bounce. That's what makes it fun.
The movie's called Pinball, the Man Who Saved the Game.
Pinball, that actually, it's so mean because, again, touting back to last episode, shout out again, Daniel, about like things Dre needs to watch. Well, first off, spoiler alert, if you didn't listen to that episode, we have a litany of things for me to watch on the back end of the year. So I'm already like, I'm set. I don't need to watch anything good. I'm saving it till the end of the year, Jeff. But also like that one does sound fun to just like watch. That one's striking my fancy. So that one I might see before.
It's a very wholesome movie too. It's and they're like the actor that's in it. He was the like best friend with the conflict when Steven Spielberg redid West Side Story. He was the guy from West Side Story as the main character. It's a great, very wholesome movie. Yeah, I really love that.
Okay, I do have to ask this then, Jeff. So I did want to at least tie up that question.
We're so in the weeds on pinball now that we're forgetting that Sonic.
Well,
pinball.
The good thing is we're very much like a pinball. We're bouncing all over the place and we're making sure to hit the targets I do have on the notes to go over, Jeff. But what I did want to ask is like comparing the gameplay of, unlocking the crystals to unlock the final boss, to get to the next level, to unlock the heat, to unlock the thing. In your opinion, how did this play like, if not exactly like a pinball game, but in that genre, in the feel? Like, does this, to me, as an amateur, this felt like a pinball game, but I could be wrong.
No, I mean, no, it's not. And now I understand. It's also important to talk about the fact that this game is born out of the fact that the most popular part of a Sonic game at the time and continuing is the casino zone with all the pinball stuff. People loved that. Based off of a platformer, and there were pinball elements, right? You remember that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, it like literally does have the flipper. It has the bouncy thing. Yeah. So things that stick around.
They still put that into Sonic games.
It's the Hoth of Sonic.
That schematic, yeah, exactly. That schematic and that plan keeps being put into Sonic games for a reason, right? Do I consider this like pinball? No, not really at all. Because you can't control the pinball the way you do in here, and your villains are different. Like structurally, it has similar things. You aim the ball at a place, and there are dangers. But this is its own unique thing, and that's kind of one of the reasons I really like it. Because like, it is pinball in the way that playing a baseball video game is baseball.
So exactly the same for nerds, right?
Yeah, meaning it's not the same at all. And you're controlling it. You're controlling the ball, like not just with the flippers. Like the fact that you can, try to like angle him by shifting because you're playing as Sonic too. not Sonic 2, but Sonic 2. You're playing as Sonic, so like you're used to the directional pad, you're literally shifting your own character's weight. Like that's the thing. People forget. They think that Sonic is just the ball that you're hitting, but no, you are Sonic. And you're also controlling.
But I mean, that's what's funny is it does kind of make sense in that regards to say it does it perfectly. I don't know how much we'll stay on this because the ads for this were kind of boring. I don't know how much we can organically at this top level thesis.
No ads in 1993 were boring.
Okay. Well,
we'll just put that out there right now. No, they weren't.
Okay. Actually, so we'll talk about that in a second. But I guess what I was going to throw out is,
they might not be fully informative, but they're not boring.
Interesting question. So the things I thought we were going to debate, because I'm like, actually, Jeff, I think this is more pinball-y. And that point of, this is what would happen if you dropped Sonic into pinball, right? Like, and so we kind of actually agreed because you're saying it's not pinball because you can control the ball, but we're answering the question of like, yeah, this is like pinball though, in that if you were allowed to control the ball, just the weight of it, like it's shifting itself around, that kind of matches, except for, I will throw this out, they do attempt to, as you noted, add some platforming, which takes away a little where
it's a
Sonic can land.
pinball-themed platformer. Because even while you're playing the pinball, remember that you're still in a platforming concept. Even though the pinball is going on, it's still technically a platformer.
Yeah, if Sonic is able to grab onto or land on any... If there is a ledge, Sonic is able to land and jump and walk. So
yeah. And so, like, clearly, it's a platformer with a pinball theme. It's not pinball.
But I guess
that's great. That's all. Yeah. By the way, that's why it's called Sonic Spinball and not Sonic Pinball. Because it's not pinball.
But to briefly stay there, like the question was of the like in level 1, in every level you have to unlock the crystals, and once you unlock the crystal, you get the boss. You have to hit the boss so many times. That at least felt in the spirit of pinball to me, I guess, was what I was saying.
That is literally the same as platformers.
So I guess what we're saying is just like
when you're fighting Robotnik in Sonic 1, you got to hit Robotnik a bunch of times. So no. Now, what I will grant you is there is a pinball game within Sonic Spinball, which is bonus levels between the games where you are Sonic playing pinball. And you can literally see the reflection of Sonic concentrating on the game in the windows that are there. But that is literal pinball. It's a silver ball. You don't control it other than with the flippers, and you can do kind of a nudging thing. There are targets that you're going for. You take it out. It's the bonus level. That bonus level is pinball. Sonic Spinball is not. Does that make sense?
Definitive answer, which I love. I'm curious on 2 more aspects of this. So you said teenager. So did you actually play this in 93?
Yes. I believe I got it. So, because remember, I've talked about this before. My mom, because we did not have money, but like our Christmases were dope. So like, I don't know what happened. I don't know how my mom was GoFundMeing our way to getting dope as hell video. I mean, granted, as a child of divorce, you do have the benefit of guilty feeling parents. But we didn't have a ton of money. But so like by that time, I feel like maybe, things had gotten a little bit better, maybe for my dad as well. So like so I think I had Aladdin. I think I got Aladdin and Sonic Spinball for that Christmas.
And that's the answer. Like, I mean, I was already saying it. Like, if you got Aladdin, you're not going to be mad at Sonic because you got the fix for the platformer. You got the most amazing platformer on like one of the coolest movie. A great game for 2 systems, which is wild. Like, again, Console Wars, check it out.
It's an okay game for Super Nintendo. It's a great game for Sega.
Okay, yeah, okay. So good. I guess what I'm saying is, thank you. So it was successful for both.
Not to be pedantic, but the Super Nintendo version's fine.
If you want to hear the argument about well-selling, go listen to the last episode of Nerd. Don't worry, we got tons on that for you. Good selling game for both, as you are noting, to this day, regarded as one of the top reviewed games for Sega. So you got that. Sonic Spinball is extra, so that's just icing. And then you said, I know I'm back and forth, like, how close did you get to beating this as a kid? Have you come back and beat it as an adult?
I think up to the machine, level 3. And I don't think I ever made it to level 4. I actually have a Genesis with Sonic Spinball. I have those things. I do not have a way to play them on my television because I don't have like an old, CRT television or whatever. Like they don't translate. The only game that would translate when I got the adapter was weirdly Sonic 2. for some reason, whatever that was doing, but everything else, it just doesn't work. You have to get some kind of fancy adapter, and they were sold out every time I tried to buy one. It got so bad that I bought a second Genesis to try to make it work. But regardless, I got as far as the machine. It's a hard game, which is good. Easy games. I don't fuck with easy games.
Well, it also has to be because it's 4 levels, right? That's what is so fascinating about this game, is that it's an arcade style game in the era of platforming. Arcade, for those that don't remember, right, wanted to eat your quarters. So it's like, it has to be a hard game because it has to keep you back. That makes sense because it's based off of pinball, notoriously one of the most common staples of an arcade. But then it's got Sonic. So like, what's really weird is it meshes all of these things together. The commercials I dissed, Jeff, basically, one of the commercials is like Sonic, pinball, Sonic and Spinball. And then the graphics are interesting, but I was just laughing at the beginning of the commercial where the person just like, it was almost like we said 2 words, like the Alien story you've told about James Cameron going in and writing Alien, adding an S and making it a dollar sign. Yeah, it almost feels like someone walked into a boardroom, wrote Sonic, pinball, put an S in front of Spinball and underlined it and was like, you have 9 months, and walked out.
But like, that is sort of the other part of the attitude of that era, which is just, what else do we have to say? And that to me is like, that's the other part of it. Because remember, while we were doing extreme advertising at the time and they were like, buy this fucking game, you were also at the same time getting like that sort of OK Soda, Gen X sort of like slacker advertising, where it was like, whatever, man, you know, like that. And that sort of like Sonic Pinball, Sonic Spinball. That's it. At E3, a couple of years later, Sega's announcing all the stuff about the Saturn, and they say they have a price of $399 when they're starting. And then Sony PlayStation, the guy goes up, scraps his whole speech, and just goes $299, and then walks away. And it's a mic drop thing. What else does he need to say? He said, you can get us, and it's better, and it's cheaper. And like that sort of really does bring up the attitude of that era, the contradictory thing of like, beyond the extreme part, it's the like, psh, what else kind of an energy. Speaking of what else kind of an energy, did you know, Dre, that we have people that actually produce this show?
They do. Do you think they're paying for Nintendo energy or Sega energy this month, Jeff?
All I know is that they're playing with power and they have been welcomed to the next level. So, Dre, I don't know if you know this, but we're going to say their names. And if you want to head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May, you can produce this show as well as other shows like Jeff Has Cool Friends. You can get stuff in the mail if you sign up for the rookie card tiers. We have any and all possible combinations you could want of getting cool stuff in here, including early access to this show. If you're listening to this for free, thank you so much. Dre, did you know that we're going to give a big shout out to @Ravages of the Scourge for your fantasy themed death metal, deathcore needs?
Heck yeah, playing with power.
Super power. We're also going to say a big shout out to, I'm going to start calling Yoda Old Grogu just to see what happens.
I'm going to say taking it to the next level there, Jeff.
A big shout out to Norm from Cheers.
Absolutely playing with power.
Absolutely. And hey, real quick, hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood Jeff May here. And you know what I think is even sexier than producer names is pickles. God damn it, do I love me a big, old, thick, bumpy, veiny pickle. If you're not going to eat yours, please, no matter what I say after this, send them to me.
Is that like the 3DO or whatever at that time?
That's
Jeff,
just me going, awesome.
That's I'm saying that producer level, not next level, not playing with power. That's 3DO energy.
And a huge shout out, of course, to Dan Hackroyd and Porcelain Jesus. Dre, take it from here.
They were both playing with power. All right, we're going to do a shout out to the Enchantering. Oh my gosh. Yep, we're sticking with it. The Enchantering. That's what you're getting this month. The Enchantering Wandering Unpierced Left Nipple Cider. Served at room temperature. Someday I'll get that right, Jeff. Is not this day. Very much like Sonic Spinball. Just going to mess things up. Thank you to Ricky Cilantro playing with power. Burrito, Jeff's best friend, playing with power. The definitive MCU rankings are now available exclusively at MikeSlater.com. Again, that's MikeSlater.com, spelled SLATER.com. That's for messing it up like 3 times there, Mike. Please address all comments and opinions to @nerdnumbers.com on Blue Sky. Do it. I will tell you how right or wrong Mike is about MCU rankings, and I do think Mike's still alive, but he might have died of alcohol poisoning from taking too many shots from when I plugged the back catalog, Jeff. All right. We're going to give a huge shout out to Bimmy and Jimmy Outfighting Crime. I mean, easy swapping, right, Jeff? Sonic and Tails Outfighting Crime. Shout out to Bobby Opulent. We're going to say Jeff has a 12-inch tick. Then we're going to do put watches on a belt for a waste of time. Love that. New producer there.
That's
put
a new
watches
one we got in there.
on a belt for a waste of time. Pun. We are here for it. Thank you.
We love a pun.
So much.
We love a good homonym on here.
Wait. Describe that for me. You said homonym? What's the official definition of that?
Homonym?
You said homonym. I heard homonym. I didn't know if that was something brand new. Homonym, I know. I didn't know if homonym was a thing.
It kind of feels like you're trying to rip me apart for you not hearing what I said.
No, so I clearly misheard you. But people make homonym a thing because it is not a thing. It's kind of a homonym for hominin. Continue, Jeff.
Oh, I want to talk now about something I was talking about earlier, which is like the creepiness of this, because I think that's actually kind of one of the most significant parts. I want to talk about the disparity of this game between other Sonic games. First and foremost, the natural spot is that it plays slower. You can adjust that by switching it into the faster mode. The music is different. It's a game that was gone through, but it's also what we consider an Americanized, some people refer to as Goblin Sonic, where his shoes kind of come out a little pointier, and his sort of tendrils or his spikes or whatever you want to call them on the back, that sounds uncomfortable, is more closely aligned to the Americanized like animation version of that, where it's like a thicker kind of like more organic looking spike, whereas they're a lot kind of sharper in the Japanese style. They're and that's all well and good. People have whatever opinions they want on how a character can look. My response to that is it's a fucking video game. Calm down. Mario doesn't look the same as he did in Mario 2, nor does it look the same in Mario 3, and yet somehow we made it through this grave injustice.
Well, by the way, Jeff, when we talk like the weird cultural difference, the United States versus other countries, including like England, this idea that we have of canon and it was this way, it was The Simpsons, right? It was this way when I saw it. It's the same style forever. Japan notoriously, like in anime, would go like, we'd have a run of the show. One of my favorites was like Tenchi Muyo.
They'd be like, new series, yeah.
It'd be like, might even be the same characters, but new look, new feel. You know, Britain notoriously with like The Office.
New
like,
toys.
What? New toys. That's the key. That's the
new
key.
New look, new feel. Most importantly, new toys.
New toys. Like Britain does.
Bandai needs its money, and you need to make those, Japan. So let's go.
Which is not a shocker then to why like Sega's like more peripherals, reskin the same thing over and over and over again. That mentality. Britain, right? You know, with hey, just short series. Hey, the Doctor, right, has changed. You know, actor look feel over the years. So it's kind of going. This mentality in the United States of Sonic looks like this, or this is my He-Man, versus other countries are like, yeah, He-Man is a character, and you can put He-Man in a new world,
drawing,
and that's fine.
Drawing. He's not a real man. He's not a real man. He doesn't look like anything because he's not a real man.
You tell
Sonic's
that to Dolph
Hedgehog.
You tell that to Dolph Lundgren's face, and then he'll punch you in the chest, and you'll get sent to the hospital, Jeff.
Kick me in the chest.
Was it? No, he did a punch to Rock. He could do both though. He is like,
yeah, but I think I do all right boxing with him, but I don't think I do as well with the kicking stuff because he's like a Taekwondo master or something.
That would be, right? Sorry, just like the headcanon to me is like Jeff fighting Dolph Lundgren, which I mean, not to be mean, age disparity aside, like, you know, he's Dolph Lundgren. I could see he's like, oh my gosh, Jeff knows how to box. You're like, that's right, I know how to box. And out of nowhere, he's like, but I can kick. And you're like, no, my only weakness, kicks. Who could have seen
my only weakness? Any other form of getting hit. Okay, so now that aesthetic thing is whatever, but this is also both literally and figuratively the darkest Sonic game. And when you start out, when you look at these three levels, right, and it really comes down to not just the aesthetic, because the first level is a grimy, disgusting, toxic sewer level where you're fighting robot, disgusting, there's like slime and mold everywhere. It's like you're fighting with worms. It's gross. And your villain is the aforementioned, as we brought up, a scorpion that screeches bloody murder as you're killing it. I am like this character terrified so many people. People still have nightmares. It's It's terrifying, right? So then you're like, all right, well, there's nothing else can be this even remotely close to this terrifying. And then you get to the second level, which is essentially you're in like a boiler room, and it's gross and it's hot and there's steam everywhere. It feels warm. And the boss of that level is 4 Robotnik heads stuck in lava screaming for death. It's so upsetting. They're 4 different like Robotnik heads just silently screaming into the void, begging to be killed. The third villain, the third stage, is considered the machine, and that's the processing space. And what that is, it's literally where Robotnik is, and it's really jarring. Because did you watch the footage of this?
Yeah, I've watched. Like, here's the fun news, Jeff, is this game, via computer, tool-assisted speedrun, can be beaten completely. I had one other question on gameplay, which we'll get back to in a minute. You can beat this game in like 7 minutes with a score of 185 million if like you had a computer playing absolutely perfectly, which proved this was a game of skill, by the way, in court, I heard.
Yeah. So the machine is the thing that turns woodland animals, Sonic's friends, into robotic demons. And when you are faced with the machine to finally throw down with it at the end, the villain, you see that it is literally processing these animals, turning into robots that you then have to free by killing them. And when it goes through, part of the animation is you can see them getting turned into robots. You can see their skeletons being poured through it in like an X-ray radiation kind of a thing before, like, so you see a skeleton of an animal traveling down until it then pops out as like a flying.
Can I throw a bizarre world building part about this that makes Sonic Spinball better than like Sonic the normal first 2, just from like headcanon? Is that that has been a part of the lore, is Robotnik changing woodland animals into robots and Sonic quote unquote freeing them when he bounces on them. So like they're the villain, but you bounce on them, they get, you destroy the exoskeleton, they're freed, but you have like bunnies. And because it's a platformer, you'll like jump on a bunny and you're 30 feet in the air. You're Sonic. The bunny just goes straight down and they're like, hey, it's fine. It's fine. And you're like,
yeah, this is a hell island.
You're like, is it fine? In this game, I was noticing, at least because I played like through the first 2 stages and then like watch the rest, but like they make a very explicit decision to make all of the creatures flying characters. So you kill a bird and the bird flies off and you're like, yay bird. Whereas like if you play Sonic 2, you're like, did I just knock a bunny from Tails' plane 100 feet in the air?
It's going to drown at best. It's going to drown.
Yeah, at best it's going to hit. Well, I mean, that's like a Mythbusters episode. It's going to hit the water, but from this height, the terminal velocity is going to make it like hitting concrete. It's dead. You just killed that bunny.
Yeah, it is. It's very jarring. But that scene, right? Like that when you're going against that machine that's processing all the people, when you like boil it down, it is a grisly, creepy, grimy thing you're doing, because it's like when you're playing the third level, you can almost smell like the gear oil. It's like a very, very dirty machine kind of vibe, and there's like spinning razor blades everywhere and stuff. It's fucking terrifying.
This came up during the Legend of Zelda episode, and I do actually really like this about you, Jeff. Like, it's fun to learn this about you playing video games, because like I mentioned, like this scream is obnoxious in Zelda 2, of course. When you die, Ganon like laughs at you, and it used to be like this. It is from Punch Out. But then what I'll say is we noted that was a change, because in the Japanese version there's this like blaring screech when you die, and you said that is also in Zelda 1, which you played as a child and beat as a child, and you were just like, I love that. And I know like you're saying the same thing. You're like, when you play video games, you like the experimentation, right? You like that kind of stuff, but you also almost like the other senses, the sounds, the feel. You're mentioning like this feels a certain way, and that is fascinating. And I'm not here to disagree with it.
Grimy game, yeah. It's a filthy game, like not filthy in like it's got boobs in it, but like there's an underground aesthetic, right? Like think about like Tim Burton movies, right? Every time you watch a Tim Burton movie, there's like this sense of like kind of like chilling whimsy, where there's a whimsy that seems very sinister. And a good example of that is like anything from like, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. right? Pee-wee's Big Adventure is like a fun little whimsical movie that is actually like kind of, there's a lot of very chilling things happening to it, right?
There was a reason this got ripped off for it, which is I don't believe Tim Burton was directly involved in Coraline, right? But that was like a premise of that, right? Is this perfect world. Like it's a movie about this person.
Well, it's stop motion. It's like a studio's. Right?
Yeah. But it was that exact thing where things feel just a little off, and it makes sense why everybody's like, oh, that's Tim Burton did that. And it's like, well, no, but you are distilling down the Tim Burton thing.
It's Neil Gaiman's writing mixed with Laika's, because it's Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman writes like Tim Burton directs.
That's unfortunate. Hopefully Tim Burton.
I know he's not a hero. I'm not running around saying Neil Gaiman's a hero. I'm saying he's a good writer. Bill Cosby, great comedian.
We already brought up Michael Jackson. I hate to tell you, being talented at producing stuff does not mean you're morally good, and people need to drop that from.
Absolutely. You need to stop pretending that artists are infallible and even necessarily good. But okay. So I like, and the reason I love Sonic Spinball is because it takes the lore that Sonic has and says, we need to show the darker side of that. It is one of the reasons that I love Rogue One and Andor, right? I love the idea of the grimy underside of the polished thing that we see everywhere. And conceptually, Robotnik is terrifying because he's trying to turn organic materials into what is essentially, Terminators. He's trying to conquer an entire world by taking the people and turning them into slaves. So the Skeksis and the Dark Crystals or whatever. Take the population, turn them into your slaves, right? And turn them into like the slaves to do your bidding and take over, like any sort of a zombie scenario, like anything like that. That's terrifying, right? Because one of the most human fears is being swarmed. That's a normal, common human fear. And so what you really boil it down to is Dr. Robotnik is trying to swarm Sonic's planet.
Well, I mean, this, all over the place here. We're talking Star Trek with the Borg, that idea of you will be assimilated, you'll become part of a thing, you'll get turned evil, you'll be not hard to do it. And it's what I like that you're pointing out in kind of the Sonic lore, and this happens in this game in one of the TV shows, is this is a very bright game that's fun, that when you start poking at, there's sinister undertones. And to apologies, put words in your mouth, Jeff, what I will say is, if we look at, say, like, make comics dark and how often that fails, and that's the wrong lesson in the modern era.
Yeah. Look at a lot of Image comics from in this same era.
With like, we're dark. Go listen to the Youngblood episode with Mike Slater as well. That's doing so much stuff right there. But I'll just say, I think to your point, this game, especially because it's very limited in scope and also makes sense and also exists, like I think this fits into the world of one of the television shows, is fine. So it's kind of going, it's a darker Sonic, but it's not stupid darker. It's not just like adding a bunch of, straps and things to
as a matter of fact, it elevates Sonic. I mean, I understand the premise of the spinball thing isn't there, but like when you look at it plot wise and you look at the setting, because like in the last level of course, you are literally chasing and the spaceship that's taking off from the volcano, the island volcano that the base is located on, right? It's called like the Vega base or the Vega or whatever.
Like Vejo or whatever, how you want to pronounce it.
Yeah. So, and he takes off and you get up there. And one of the things that they do in this game, Robotnik looks different. He looks infinitely more disturbing. He's much bigger, right? Because when he's sitting in his like pod and you're trying to attack him and essentially kill him, because weirdly at the end he like falls into the exploding volcano, but obviously he's gonna live. And this is canon, by the way. This game is considered Sonic canon. He's bigger. He looks different. His eyes are like beady. And like the way it looks, everything about it's just extra creepy.
Yeah, it's almost like Kingpin from, I know that there's an original version before this, but like Spider-Verse Kingpin, which is based on like that specific form, that exact one looks very similar to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess you're talking about like Spider-Verse.
Yeah, like the Spider-Verse Kingpin played by like
Bill Sienkiewicz, the Bill Sienkiewicz style Kingpin, yeah. Where it's like, it's this giant like oval of a man that will crush you. And it's like that, yeah. So this game, it's fun. And I think it shows a side of Sonic that some people don't love because they want things to be very cookie cutter. They say, I want the setting that I always get and just give me a couple new things. Sometimes that works perfectly. It's one of the reasons that Zelda 2 is considered a bad game, which we talked about years ago on this show.
I know we can stay in debate.
Why is this different than the thing that I love? And it's like, because it's a different game. Mario 2 is, obviously it's Toki Doki Panic, reskinned, and I get that, but Mario 3 is different from these. And like Super Mario World's not much different than Mario 3. But like the evolution of games and the shifting and changing is what makes them interesting. And so like I do actually look back in the past at the people that complain that it was like not their Sonic as with ridicule. I think it's silly that they don't think this game is great just because it's different.
What I do love, which is fascinating, I do love this comparison we get to. Now, I will say more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. I'm going to give you a synergy for this game, Jeff. But I'm going to say that if we're mixing percentages, I'm going to say more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 than this, but this is like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and Gremlins 2 molded together. It was a shameless cash grab with tight constraints, but it was the artists understanding the material. That's the key, right? These were the US developers of Sonic. They were familiar with the character. They had a lot of their tools taken away, the music, the engine, but basically that idea of these people understood the character and loved it. And then also, like I said, the thing I'm requesting, so if this exists, people let me know. If not, someone make it. I don't have time to make it. I got a X-Men script to send Jeff that I got to revise. So I got to work on that. And a Babylon 5 podcast with Mike Slater to work on. I'll start teasing that. We've done enough work on it, Jeff. I am so looking forward to releasing that. That'll be fun. But what I'll throw out is there were 2 Sonic shows going on at the time. As I kind of mentioned, this was the apex of the Sega era where they went all in on Sonic and, classic mistake, oversaturated the market. We got Spinball. We got another game. We got 2 television shows. We got comics. And the interesting thing you had already said is that like of the 2 television shows, one went darker with the same theme of Sonic is the rebel and Robotnik is scary and overbearing, which was kind of antithetical to what we'd seen in 1 and 2, where he seems more, like a silly villain, like he's called Eggman and you beat him up and Sonic can do no wrong. Whereas that did get adjusted to Robotnik is this terrifying villain and Sonic is the underdog and he needs a bunch of friends to help like Tails and other characters. And this kind of fell into that line. And I would be very interested to hear about like those 2 shows and the direction things. I do believe that was the point, is that this game, I think the box art even changed in the future to match the look and feel of the quote unquote better show that also
kind of. There's actually the Genesis and Game Gear versions have slightly different box art, including I believe the Game Gear version has the animated Robotnik as the villain on the box, which I think is really interesting. It's also interesting to note in a little batch of synergy that Sega had made pinball machines in the 70s and also started again in 1994 for 5 years until obviously it went through. And they actually made some really good games. Like Sega made some pretty solid games.
Do you have any off the top of your head favorite games you've played that were Sega?
Yeah. Godzilla. The Godzilla 98 is a very good game. I really like that one. They did a South Park one that's actually pretty good. The Batman Forever one I like that. Maverick is good. Independence Day is all right. They did a Twister one. They did a Star Wars trilogy. They did Starship Troopers, like X-Files. I don't know if I mentioned that. They did Lost World. They did a lot.
Those are some
They did one for Apollo 13, I think.
Sorry, say that last one again.
Apollo 13.
You hit enough things and you like explode the shuttle.
Yeah.
All right. That's and did they ever do, by the way, a Sonic board though for like the character, and was it any good?
No. I will also add too that Gary Stern was the guy who ran Sega Pinball.
But
it was sort of a shift to Data East Pinball, and then it became they sold Sega Pinball to Gary Stern, and now it is Stern. And Stern is who makes most of the pinball machines.
Jeff, on the patented Jeff has cool friends scale, Stern ever being on the show? Any hope? Any connections? Any tangents?
I don't know Gary Stern. I don't know him. He's an older guy, I think, and so I don't actually know him. So I wouldn't.
So Gary, if you're out there, befriend Jeff. He's a cool dude, so we can have you on the podcast because I would love to hear about the history of Sega pinball.
Yeah, I mean, because Stern had existed and kept going, and then kind of pulled back, and then it became the Stern that we now know and love, and that's built off of Sega pinball. So, which I think that's really interesting and fun.
What's like sorry to stay in this a little longer, but like, do you have any recent Stern tables that you like that you know of?
Yeah, man. Godzilla came out.
Well, you said that. I think was that Sega too.
No, like Godzilla 98 was Sega, but the new Stern Godzilla is considered the best pinball machine that exists.
And what year is that?
I don't know, like 2018.
That is funny to me to be like, no, you already said Godzilla. Like, no, the new Godzilla, Dre. You can do the same characters in new ways and still be good.
Godzilla 98, I don't know if you heard, was a movie that a lot of people thought was going to be huge. They did one for Shelley's Franken.
My brain froze to try and make like Matthew Broderick puns. I was going to be like, what inspector thought that was a good, but I missed it, Jeff. Moments passed.
Yeah. But I mean, Stern, most of the stuff that you played with me, Batman 66, that's a Stern.
That was good. That was a good one. Yeah. So that is.
Yeah. So it's like the two bigger ones that you think of now are Stern and Jersey Jack. Jersey Jack just announced it's Harry Potter. Whoa. But Jersey Jack did like Elton John, which is really great. They have a great, I really like their Pirates of the Caribbean or however you want to pronounce it.
Shout out to Dan, but I do hate that he kind of broke something. The Still Standing, of course, because of like Sing. I'm like, that feels like a good song because of like karaoke. And you realize if you listen to it over and over again that like in the annals of Elton John songs, including like The Who and like Tommy, etc., it's not even up there. So I was mad because like Dan was like, I hate this song. It's not even one of his better ones. I was like, I thought it's pretty good. And I'm like, you know what? Because it's on one of the pinball tables, the Elton John pinball table. You hear, he's Still Standing. So much like, you know what? You're right. I'm used to this as a karaoke played once snappy song, but if you listen to it a bunch, you're like, Elton John's done better.
Yeah. I mean, but that would be what? Taron Egerton that sang that?
Yeah, you're talking and saying, nice pull, nice recognizing it. Good job.
Yeah, I believe he was on that, but he also did it. Obviously, he played Elton John in the Elton John movie.
Huh. I did not know that. I hate to be the parent, which occasionally comes up on this show, Jeff. I know, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know the kids, the animated kids movie.
I think he sang it in the animated kids movie. And then he also
played that's what you're saying. And so I'm saying it's not a shocker that I'm like, Jeff, I don't know the adult movie. I just know the animated kids movie. Anyway.
But regardless, because I know we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're definitely at the end, which is awesome. We hit very much like a pinball table. We hit everything except, Jeff, the bonus stage. The one thing I did want to ask about pinball tables, because it does show up in this game. Are there glitches in pinball tables? As in, normally in a pinball table, right, you have to unlock things to get to a goal. Glitches. And so the same thing. So actually in Sonic, there are people that can beat this game, which is like, you don't actually have to get all the 3 crystals to bump into this room. You can get around it.
Yeah,
and
you're saying glitch out. There are spaces where you can glitch out. Like I would say 99% of all video games contain glitches, right? Like some kind of way that you can use it to an advantage. That's why you can do things like person beats Super Mario Brothers without ever jumping, stuff like that, right? Like there are ways to glitch through a game. And Sonic Spinball has that, where you can like accidentally get bumped up to the next level of the level you're playing, right? The next sort of level of the stage or stage of the level, depending on how you want to put it, right? And in pinball, oftentimes there are glitches, but they're usually table specific. Like some tables, for example, like the plunger might be so tight that if you pull it all the way back, it'll actually send the ball flying. Sometimes I've had glitches, playing pinball where a ball's coming down really fast. And if I hit my flipper hard, it literally like vaults the ball behind the flipper.
Oh, you do like a 3D move on a 2D platform. Love that.
Yeah. And it's like, usually it's to your default. Like it's not good. But I've had moments where like you hit something hard enough and instead of going up a ramp, it literally like accidentally leaps up onto a thing. It does happen. It's not a normal occasion, just like glitching is not really a particularly normal thing. And it's usually table specific, but yes.
And I guess last follow-up for the nerd in me is like, do those though ever hit the like platformer style where Mega Man, through all 6, as we mentioned, why actually shows up on this episode. Well, listen back if you missed that, and then go listen to the Mega Man 2 episode if you missed that. There's lots of backstory, but are there like beloved glitches that are built in that are kind of like people use and exploit, or is it just more like, hey, they can happen, not as loved? Because I know that's one of the fun of platformers is that glitches happen, they're accidents. The reason they're in every game is because it's hard to make things on a deadline without making mistakes. So you get it out, it's got some bugs in it, you kind of learn to live with them. In pinball, are some of these bugs loved, or are they just like always hated, or what?
Oh, you fix it. The bugs are individually table specific, as in not every Godzilla will have the bug. But
so that was the
like
question.
A skip or a hop or something like that. Well, no, because they also update code now. So if something doesn't necessarily work, or there's like a part of the game that isn't working properly, they actually will process code. There's no glitching the way that a video game can glitch, because obviously game. But what there are is certain games can have problems that can create an accidental glitch. Physical problems where you're literally like, sometimes you hit how many times do you hear the glass getting hit by the pinball, right? It's never supposed to do that, but sometimes it does that.
And I guess to your point, that is like pinball in a nutshell. Because they're mechanical, you have someone at the arcade that can pop it open. Hey, this thing was loose. That you ship a video game, as we mentioned, you inadvertently ship Sonic with the wrong soundtrack playing on it, and now that's a collector's item because oops, you weren't.
There are
supposed
rumors
to do
that there are rumors, and there are people that say that they got that version of Sonic with the original modified illegal theme song. There's like Reddit posts where people have said like, oh my God, I thought I was the only person that had this version of the game. Why was I losing my mind where, everybody had this song and I've never heard that song. This was, I heard the more like, I think this game is an absolute triumph, both artistically and obviously sales wise. 9 months to create a game, a 16-bit game in 9 months. Full soundtrack from the ground up, and have it be well received, well purchased, and a artistic triumph in sort of the establishment of different parts of the lore. Ultimately, I think Sonic Spinball is vindicated in its existence, and I think that people that do not agree with that are really surface level in how they want to consume their art, which I guess if that's how you want to choose to consume art, that's fine.
This is one that history does seem to have vindicated and agreed with. Like I said,
yes,
I didn't find, the, sorry, to shout out a future podcast. When I was like revisiting Babylon 5 season 1, I was remembering it harsher when I rewatched it. I was actually like, especially with the benefit of hindsight about like what was going on. And then what we got, I was like, this is not as bad as I remembered, and in fact is quite good. And Sonic Spinball seems to be the same case for people, like some of the YouTube videos I think we both consumed were like, I heard things about this when I played it. Oh yeah, this is weak. A lot of the time, the good news too is when the short time frame can be used as a justification as like why something didn't happen, but also you don't get to say, yeah, but they needed that. That's what happened in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Yeah, this thing was missing the major villain because of this. Yeah, they needed, like you said in the episode.
Also, Ninja Turtles 2 could have waited.
Yes, there's that. There's that too. That could have. It could have. But also, like, it's like, yeah, I get the time crunch, but you needed a second rewrite. Whereas, like, a comment I've heard on Sonic Spinball that is accurate is, hey, why do you only play as Sonic? You see Tails in the thing. There are the other characters you mentioned as like cameos. Why don't you?
You can technically play up to 4 players too.
You could play 4 players. So why don't you have other characters? And they're just like, yeah, it's a good idea. We didn't have time. And you're like, but you go, but yeah, did the game still work? It's like, yeah. It's like, did not being able to play those other 4 hurt you? No. Did we make sure to keep those characters in the universe in the storyline so the storyline lines up? Which is why, like, that's, we didn't talk
and bring those characters into video game canon.
Exactly. I was going to say that, Jeff.
That's the other part is you're bringing the popular animated series into the video game for the first and only time because it was an American released series, right? So it's an American, that Sonic is Sonic Adventure, whatever it was called, right? it was an American property, and they put them in the game. Sega of Japan is ignoring these characters. They don't want to involve them in the game. They're going to do their Knuckles and everything like that, and Shadow. But those characters, they got their due in Sonic Spinball. And some of those characters are people's favorite characters.
Which, yeah, so that's the point, is it's not going, we didn't have time to let you play as these characters, so we didn't have them. It's like we found a way to get them into the game, which, again, incredible synergy. We talked a little on that. One of the reasons not as much is legitimately that show is another bag of worms, and this episode was on Sonic Spinball. And Jeff, our arguments were far smaller, and in fact, I thought in a couple cases we ended up on the opposite side, where I'm like, I thought you would be saying this was more like a pinball game than I was. And then on the flip side, like, I think I'm taking more of your side on the TMNT2 comparison than we might have originally thought at the start of the episode.
Well, the thing about it being more of a pinball game thing is the reality question is, or the reality of it is, the more you know about something, the more you see the differences.
Yep, that is 100%
right. Like
accurate.
if you were watching something where it's like playing on a human chessboard or something like that, you'd be like, you wouldn't do that move. That's not at all what this would be like. You wouldn't do that. Kind of a thing. Like, that's not how you would do it. That's not how you castle or something like that, right? Like you'd see those cracks because you're so familiar with the sport or the game.
Sorry, Jeff, I will let this be the lame end of this, like the connect all the tissue and then we can head out, which is, ironically, on the Nerd Show, you schooled me on that exact moment on chess showing up in Saved by the Bell, which is wild because, as you noted, I'm the chess guy. I'm the person who's supposed to be able to watch it. You are 100% accurate on that. So go back. I don't even remember what episode, but one of the episodes.
Spassky Bishop Block.
Oh, yeah, that was Searching for Bobby Fischer was the episode. Go look for that. But Jeff remembers that correctly.
Yeah. It's so funny to remember, like, which episode of Nerd was that?
Yeah, we know.
The only one it could have been.
Well, chess is starting to show up a lot, this episode included. But what I'll throw out to you, too, is one of the funniest things I found in the research for this was Dustin Diamond being used to promote Sonic 2 on Sonic Tuesday. That was a thing, people. And what was hilarious is it's like, you got
still is a thing, I believe.
Yeah, it's like, you got Dustin Diamond. It's like, did you get the writers of Saved by the Bell too? Because it is hilarious to watch Dustin Diamond try and explain to you why Sonic 2 is awesome. And I'm like, none of this, unlike Sonic Spinball, which combined Sonic and pinball in a way that worked, I was like, none of the combination of Dustin Diamond and Sonic works here, but it's there. That was my 2 cents. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's
well,
our show, Jeff.
I'm focused. Sonic Spinball. Got to go fast. I love the game. I like the game. I love the game for what it is. I like playing the game. I love the game for its existence and for what it does to the lore. I think people have started to understand something more about me in that process, which is like, I like risks. I like when they sort of branch away from what made something big and they decide to start getting fucking weird with it. Remember, this is only the 3rd mainstream Sonic game too. And it never makes the list of bad games. It's like Dave Matthews. Like, it's the Dave Matthews Band, where it's just like, it's not bad. You just don't like it conceptually. And so therefore you think that there's some sort of artistic quality while not liking.
It is legit a, pun intended, softball for a jump the shark example. If this game were a little worse, it would so easily be it's like Sonic Spinball. And it's, to your point, it is not. And it was set up to be that so easily. So again, grading on the curve, a testament to it. And the fact that people go back years later and look at it and still love it, myself included. I was like, it's pretty good. I don't know if I want to put the energy into learning to beat it, Jeff, but it was fun to play. And it is very playable. It is available everywhere. It's on like the Switch.
You know what's funny is I watched a playthrough and the guy playing it was bad. And I was just like, well, why don't you just start over? Like, I was like really funny. Like I did end up finding a playthrough where a guy was getting through it and he was like really shitty at the game. And I was like, what are you doing? Why'd you put this out on the internet? Start again. Get
that
better.
Guy was high Jeff. You're like, oh no, it was me. Like, why did I record this and put it on the internet?
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much. We've got 2 more glorious episodes in this season on Speed coming at you. So definitely stick around. Dre, thanks for having me on the show.
We'll see if that makes the cut. But yes, Jeff, co-host and Pina Colada guest host that I didn't realize. I was like, oh, it's you. I was like, Jeff, when I put out that request for a Sonic Spinball expert, I'm glad I was talking about you the whole time, Jeff. I wasn't looking for a new guest.
Which me this whole time. Hey.
All right. Well,
Anyway,
yeah, let's hear all the stuff, Jeff. I want to hear the cool stuff, the cool friends.
Well, I mean, if you guys are listening to this for free, thank you so much. I don't know if you know this, but you can go over to patreon.com/JeffMay. And not only can you get access to this show early, but you can get Jeff Has Cool Friends. You can get early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content. You can stuff in the mail. We have so many different tiers at so many different values and levels, and they're all just the best. You could produce the show. It's great. You can check out all the stuff I do with Adam Todd Brown on the You Don't Even Like This network. And of course, all the stuff I do with Tom Ryman on the Gamefully Unemployed network, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman. It's a great network. Both of those networks are great. Speaking of great networks, the Jeff Has Cool Cards YouTube account is a great network. We've grown a few followers here, but it's been rough going. So if you can sign up and watch along, we've got some great breaks coming our way. Dre and I have replenished the coffers for all of the people that are members of the rookie card tier.
Although, Jeff, now I'm going to have to look about like Sonic. I don't think there are Sonic Spinball cards, but there got to be Sonic cards of some sort. So
no, there's no Sonic Spinball cards. The one problem with Sonic merch is it's oftentimes really expensive.
Yeah, if it's vintage and old, but I'll keep you posted. I might look for that. But again, Jeff Has Cool Cards. We oftentimes try and do a nerd theme thing. So if you love this show and you're like, did they make a card form of this great property for Jeff to open and then send me in the mail? Heck, probably. So Jeff Has Cool Cards. I occasionally go over there as well. Jeff, I've got so many other projects in the fire, which again, go to patreon.com/JeffMay for that, because that doesn't just help Jeff. As you noticed, I'm Jeff's co-host, not host with a guest, but I'm Jeff's co-host on here and have done stuff, including over at Jeff Has Cool Cards. So patreon.com/JeffMay helps us keep doing silly stuff like that and other fun ideas we have going forward. You can find me most places on the internet as Nerd Numbers. And I think I'm going to talk some basketball, the Box Score Geek show. We're going to be talking the NBA Finals, which, Jeff, if it goes to Game 6, we're recording this before Game 3 of the NBA Finals. If it goes to Game 6, I may have to drive to Indiana to watch the NBA Finals. So I am actually rooting on OKC to just win this in 5, because otherwise...
No, don't do that, because good friend of the show, Tom Thakar, loves the Pacers.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know anyone like Thunder, so...
I like Tom, but I like money more, so we'll see. Anyway, other cool friend, Tom Thakar, so check that out. Anyway, that's everything. We love you all, and we will see you next month with another nerdy subject.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Nerd. If you want to help keep the podcast growing, it's definitely worth your while to head over to patreon.com/JeffMay. Also, you'll get early access to cool stuff. Cool stuff like videos of Jeff showing off awesome collectibles and pack-breaking videos. And it's also worth your while to check out Jeff May's YouTube channels. That's right, channels. For Pack Breaking by Jeff and myself, head over to youtube.com/@JeffHasCoolCards, where Jeff breaks packs weekly, opens stuff you send him in the mail, and sometimes even gives away cool prizes. For Jeff's podcasts, head over to youtube.com/@HeyThereJeffro. That's spelled JEFFRO. And shocker, he uses that name across a lot of social media, including Blue Sky. You can find him at Instagram at HeyThereJeffro, but you're going to have to add a 2 to the end. So that's HeyThereJeffro2 over at Instagram. You can find me most places on the internet as Nerd Numbers. Shout out to Chris Haugen for the outro theme of Pure Magic. Thanks so much, and we'll be back with another nerdy subject soon.